It was most likely that in the 1950s, it would have to be the earliest, anyways. They had to have thunderbolt sirens, and I know one of the one of the students that used to attend at Emerson Middle School. They claim, even though they don't have any good memories of it, they claim that there may have been a thunderbolt siren on top of the school, even though they wouldn't know the name of the siren. It kind of proved, and it also would have made sense, especially back in the day, that the thunderbolts were most likely the sirens that Livonia had back in the day. Whether they were single tone or dual tone, I have no way of knowing because we don't have any proof of that. Livonia wanted to have voice capability sirens, and Whelan introduced a new siren that was called the WS2000s, which are the speaker arrays. They apparently have been having some problems. I don't know if it has to do with the controller design flaw or just the siren itself, but apparently the original old Whelans that Livonia once used to have were probably not compatible, and they were not, let's just say, reliable, in my opinion.
The system that remotely set them off was not really reliable. It tended to break down, lose connection, not work, that kind of thing. So the police department got fed up with having an unreliable system, and so in 2008 they upgraded not only the sirens themselves, but the system that was used to set them off. So now it's all set off using computers instead of analog boards.
Before 2008, the old sirens that Livonia had, I counted 9 of them that were in active service. 5 of them were these, 3 of them were 2001s, 2 of them were the older ones that had the smaller motor cover inside the horn. Later on, about when it got close to July, or right around early July, after I graduated high school in June of 2008, there was a new siren installed right near the Firestone Auto Shop that's about a quarter of a mile north of Emerson Middle School. And as you may have known, I've told you about the fact that when I first saw that siren, I just lost it because I knew our old sirens were going to be replaced.
This new system has proven itself to be a lot better than the old system. They now have more sirens in Livonia, cover a lot bigger area. They are a lot more reliable, they're a lot more recognizable, and inside the police department, their system has yet to fail. It's working a lot better, and I don't see it being replaced anytime soon.
Because of my autism, as I've mentioned before, I do have autism. There was some noises that I found fascinating and some that, I also didn't like. One of them that I found fascinating was like emergency vehicles. Now, why was it like that? I'm not exactly sure, but I just liked the sound of the sirens that they made. And because over here, you can't see it from here, but there's a main road not too far away from here to where I used to watch the emergency vehicles pass by, and I just loved watching it. And anytime I missed them, like passing by, I remember I got kind of upset because I would just run out of my house and just watch them and such like that. But then one day on a Saturday, I heard a siren sound off, and I thought at first it was an emergency vehicle. But it actually turned out to be this siren right here, which I did not know about back then. And I was waiting to see the emergency vehicle pass by. Now, the thing is, I was wondering why it was taking so long. My father was telling me that it was actually the tornado siren sounding off. And I asked them about that, I didn't know anything about it. What it was that there were utility poles that had big speakers like this, for example, of various sizes and shapes and manufacturers, which I didn't know of back then, that actually came throughout that way. One day we got to hear the siren in person, and I remember I was standing in the front of the school, which was a pretty good distance from the siren, and even then it was still pretty loud. I couldn't believe how loud it was. It was pretty scary because, of course it was the first time being up close.
So growing up, hearing the sirens go off every first Saturday of the month, I didn't mind it. I thought they were a little eerie, but I didn't think I wasn't, scared of everything. I thought it was kind of cool. And one day, just by chance, I happened to be very close to one of the sirens, which currently sits at 7 Mile at one of Livonia's fire departments. And it was so loud, it scared me pretty bad. Afterwards, I was terrified of hearing them, not just by the way they sound, but by the way they looked as well.
If I'm near an electronic siren, especially like if it's an omnidirectional, it doesn't seem to faze me anymore because because I've gotten so used to hearing them and like knowing what they would be like and such like that, it's really not, it hasn't really bothered me. But there are still some times where I kind of feel slightly skittish, but not like nervous enough to where I don't want to be near it, but I'll tell you one thing, if you want to be like in front of this, for example, like not here, but like if you were to be like in front of this at night while it's up on the pole and it's still in active service, it's, that's not something I feel like wanting to have to do.
There was sometime in middle school, around 7th or 8th grade, when I decided that I'm this old, I'm still scared of sirens, this isn't right, I should have come over to this fear by now. So I started looking into them, and I was thoroughly interested in the way they worked, the various types they are, the history. I was still a little scared at first, but I got over that very quickly. And I came across a YouTuber named Siren 1000T, who I watched his videos of sirens around Livonia, and I thought it was pretty cool knowing that the sirens around here are documented.
Yes. The one that used to be at Emerson, this right here. Now this right here is an old Wheeling WPS 3000, or you could call it a 3016 because it had 16 100-watt speaker drivers, but West Shore Services did try to call me, from what they've told me when I was there, they tried calling me about the fact that they were going to uninstall the siren on the 22nd or something, which actually I didn't know, but as I've stated before, when I was going to my ex-girlfriend's house, which on the way to her place, I passed by Emerson Middle School because she lived close by to there. As I was passing by there, I noticed that the siren head was gone, but I thank God just for being on my side that it just so happens that when I got to the back, there they were, just got done, removing the siren pole out of the ground, but they didn't remove the siren head yet. And I talked to them about the fact that I bought the siren, even though it was already paid for by my father, which I paid him back in cash. But when I got the siren, I led them to my house, and they put it inside my garage. Ever since then, I've been trying to keep the siren, preserved in some ways, but recently I've been keeping it out here by our fence right over here because it's an outdoor warning siren. It's supposed to, and because it's full of fiberglass, it's supposed to be able to withstand such harsh weather conditions. Sheldon Park, we did the same thing. We did another one, which, I fell in love with because that had a funny sound from where it sounded off at, and I thought that was from an emergency vehicle too, but nope.
I remember vividly the first video of a siren I ever watched on YouTube was of the Sheldon Park EOWS 612, which now sits behind me here. So immediately after that, I saw the uninstallment video and was fairly disappointed.
I thought it was pretty amazing that that he owned the Sheldon Park 612, but I actually did not ever think that someone actually was going to own it.
When I bought it, I took it home, first stopping at Sheldon Park, and then I took it home. And immediately began restoring it. Now, it did not need a whole lot of work, but the restoration was fairly quick. In 2018, a YouTuber commenting on my videos brought Siren 1000 T's attention to my videos, which I thought was amazing because I've always looked up to Siren 1000 T. I've also looked up to Dan.
And I thought at first, this was kind of like, I didn't really know who this person was, so I thought maybe he was just like one of those random siren kiddies who would be like what you would probably, let's just say, consider a know-it-all. But actually, it turned out that because this guy had lots of photos and videos to prove it otherwise, this guy, seemed like he was an honest person, and it seemed like, I want to be able to get in touch with this guy, so.
Ever since then, we've been connecting through Facebook, talking with each other a lot, collaborating on YouTube videos, and he's been a very close friend ever since.